Welcome to the Financial Game Plan with Hannah. Welcome to the Financial Game Plan with Hannah. I am your host, Hannah Bursaday, and today I have a really cool guest. His name is Ben Striegle. We have not met in person, but I kind of stalked him a little bit on Facebook. So, Ben, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Good. I am so excited. So I found, when I was on Facebook scrolling one day, I saw Ben's post about an assisted living facility. And I was like, oh, super cool. I want to talk to this guy. So I messaged him. He graciously accepted to be a guest on my show. So I'm really excited. So Ben, can you tell us, how did you get into real estate? Do you still have the W-2? Tell me about the assisted living facility. I want to know it all. Tell me what you got.
Perfect. You got it. All right. So my journey in real estate took a lot longer than I would have liked. So I read the Purple Investor's Bible, Rich
Yep.
Dad, Poor Dad,
Poor Dad.
like everyone, and read it at such a young age. I think I was 16 years old.
Wow.
So it kind of lit this entrepreneurial spirit inside of me really young, but I failed to take action for so long. And I jumped right into the working world out of high school. I build and maintain power lines. I still have that W-2, but I'm working on exiting that. But jumped into that right out of high school because it was a very, very high paying job without a formal education required. I could essentially go right out in the field and go to work. And I always viewed that as a means to an end, even right away. But met my lovely wife. We got married young, had children young, and life just kind of happened. And we got married in 08. And fast forward to about 2015, and the good Lord had blessed me. And I had thought at that time that maybe the means to an end now was these high levels of management. So I had worked my way up in my company, was making fantastic money, and had started doing a lot of traveling because of it. My kids were young. And, I thought at the time when I accepted this promotion, like, man, this is going to be the cat's meow. I mean, I'm making so much money. And it really was not the reality I envisioned. And I was gone all the time, and it was stressful. And I had some employees under me, and it was just all these things, all this baggage. And I was miserable. And one day I came home from work and I'm like, what am I doing? I always had this entrepreneurial fire that's been lit in me, but I've never acted on it. And I'm like, I'm going to get involved in real estate. I need to do something beyond trading my time for dollars in a way that I don't even enjoy. So got on Bigger Pockets, probably like everyone. This is probably a similar story to so many people, and just started taking action. And as the good Lord would kind of prepare me for my journey, what ended up happening is my wife and I started buying residential properties out of state. So this is our first experience with investing. We bird a couple houses. I'm sure you're familiar with that strategy. Got a couple single family homes. Then it was a couple duplexes. And within about 18 months, we had gotten up to 7 properties, 10 doors.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was fun, and I was proud of it. And it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this. And it just got to a point one day, I'm like, man, where's the money? Like, my whole goal was to replace my W-2, and doing it a few $100s a door at a time. It just was not progressing the way I had anticipated. And, now I view rental, of course I love rentals, but buy and hold I view a little bit differently, maybe for different stages in someone's career, and everyone's financial situation's different and goals and everything else. But it got to a point I'm like, man, I really just want to make more income and kind of get your, Jerry Norton calls it like your print machine of money, just get more deal flow, something more constant. So we sold off our portfolio right around COVID. We did pretty well on that. And I started going into more transactional types of investing. So then it was fix and flip and doing some wholesaling. And the fix and flip has gone fairly well. Obviously, like anything, there's some learning curves and managing contractors. And keep in mind, all the investing we're doing is out of state at this point. We had actually only ever seen one of the properties that we purchased in person. It was our first BRRRR we ever did. but our buy and hold portfolio we had at the time before we sold it, that was all out of state. These fix
That
and
is
flips, because I started building relationships, with agents and contractors and property managers. It's like anything, you just kind of start networking and building out. And yeah, graduated to the fix and flips, and that went really well. And that's kind of what allowed this opportunity with the assisted living to become a reality, was building these relationships with these private money lenders who were funding my flip projects. And I'm doing a lot of talking. Feel free to interject and ask questions if you want me to elaborate on anything. But I realized that the transactional stuff was good. I enjoyed it. But I'm like, okay, I still need to get that W-2 replaced somehow with something that is just more steady income. And I had heard of residential assisted living as a niche a number of years ago. And it always kind of stuck in the back of my head, like, man, what a rewarding investing space to be in. Something you can be super proud of. You can make such an impact on so many people. And an opportunity came. I live in Michigan. So this opportunity I found, it was actually listed on a business website. Wasn't listed super well, and that's no discredit to the seller. Just didn't take a lot of photos, wasn't a long-winded description, and ended up getting a hold of the seller, and which I was very lucky because, I think you shared with me, Hannah, that you're working on exiting a commercial property you guys own.
yes.
Those aren't easy transactions to close.
No,
so much to them. And I think that was the situation, unbeknownst to me, with this assisted living that I had found out. It's just, there's a lot to it. It's not as easy as just buying a single family rental.
Right. It's a whole different ballgame.
On so many levels, right?
Yes.
Not only with potentially the financing, but just a host of issues, and underwriting a business is so much different. So
100%.
Yeah, got a hold of the seller. They had thought they were right at the finish line with another couple that was going to buy it. Didn't happen. And the good Lord just kind of created that opportunity. And, I saw it, and I'm the type to kind of just take action first and then I'll figure it out later. So spoke with the seller. The conversation went really great. That kind of escalates to more conversation. And I'm thinking, wow, if this keeps going down the path it's going, and if I feel like this is something that's meant to be, like, I wonder if I bring this to my private money lenders as a short-term investing opportunity for them. Because I'm thinking, okay, fundamentally, it's kind of the same concept as a flip, right? You have this asset that could be performing a little bit better. The bed rates are a little low. So what if I take this down with some short-term debt from my private money lenders, operate it for a year, and then refinance them out? I thought, man, this might be a decent game plan. It gives them a good return on their money, interest-only payments. It allows me operationally to have that year of experience. I know a lot of lenders want to see that, especially with a business like assisted living, because it's a lot more than just the real estate component. Obviously, there's employees and contracts and state-triggered inspections. There's a lot to it. All very doable, by the way. So that's kind of how this really started to come into focus to me. Like, wow, this is a reality. I reached out to a couple lenders. They were very interested in it, and ended up just ultimately selecting a lender that I'd worked with on several flips. And we were able to close. I don't know when this recording is going to be out, but we closed in late August. So yeah, super excited.
Amazing. I have like 12 questions.
Thank you. Oh, absolutely.
Let's start. I wanted to let you talk. I wanted to hear a story, but let's start with the Purple Bible.
Yeah. Okay.
To be a 16-year-old to pick up a Robert Kiyosaki book is kind of not normal. What made you want to read his book? I didn't read mine until I was like 30. So
sure.
To be 16-year-old, I mean, I still had a lot of play left in me at 16. So what made you read that book at 16?
Yeah, great question. So of all things, I was getting my hair cut, and this lady had an at-home salon, and it was actually one of my stepmom's good friends, but I was getting my hair cut by her as the 16-year-old punk, and she was just asking me questions about life. And like I said, I always just kind of had this deep burning desire to not be super conventional, even though, in the ultimate irony, that's kind of the path I took for years. But
That's okay.
She interrupted me during this haircut, and she's like, I can't believe the things you're telling me right now. I mean, I was talking about investing in business, and she's like, have you ever heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad? I said no. And she goes, you have got to read this book. You're kind of saying some of the premise and principle in it. And I'm like, really? Like, give it to me. So I read this book, and I don't care what age when you read this book, it's motivating, it's encouraging. But I just took, 15 years to act on all that.
But that's okay, because I do believe that there's a right time for every person.
Sure.
It's hard to go from, you have a family, you have kids, you have a stable job, the income. It's hard to, I don't want to use the word gamble because that's not the right word here, but it's hard to kind of gamble that into doing real estate. But to be able to read that book is fantastic. Rich Dad Poor Dad has, like so many people, truly changed our lives. I want to say that was
Sure.
so my husband is very similar to you, doesn't have a formal education, out of high school, went to work at the chemical plant, makes unreal money,
Yeah.
but like he doesn't do the college type, whatever. Rich Dad Poor Dad, I believe, was the only book he's ever read cover to cover. Like that book he read, he was like, oh my God, Hannah, you have to read this book. And then
Yeah.
we ended up, YouTubing and Googling all this stuff. And it was actually Grant Cardone, which was kind of the avenue we went for. Mostly because when my husband Brad watched his video, she's like, you have to come see this dude. I think he's high. Like he's crazy. And we kind of kept watching and like, oh, okay, we need to go to one of his conferences. But anyway, so Rich Dad Poor Dad, fantastic. Another question I have.
Yeah.
I want to know more about you said it was 7 houses you were able to have in 18 months. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
How
Yep.
in the hell did you do this out of state? It's hard enough to do it in my own backyard. So you're going to have
Yeah.
to walk me through that. How did that happen?
Yeah. Again, great question. So in 2017, when I decided that, you know what, I'm going to take off the golden handcuffs of a W-2, I'm going to start taking action. I ended up networking with a good friend of mine who I knew had done some real estate in the past. And ultimately, my first plan was multifamily. I mean, we talked about Joe Fairless earlier. So it
Yes.
was back in 2017 here, we talked, and we were going to go after and try to reposition multifamily, specifically apartments.
Right.
He had, because of his background and doing a few flips and other things, he had access to private capital at that time, some pretty high dollar amount. And so it's 2017. We went under contract on so many buildings. We were looking all over the Midwest, the Southeast. Never closed any of them, but everything happens for a reason, right?
Correct.
So about 9 months into this relationship and this partnership, we were under contract on a building in central Indiana. And amongst all the underwriting and due diligence, I had networked with several property managers, and one of them I really liked. We hit it off. I liked the way we communicated. Well, this business relationship, we did not close on that apartment. We ended up ending the relationship because I thought to myself, you know what, if Lord willing, we're really successful, money and success doesn't make things easier.
Correct.
It probably will make things a little more complicated. So, and we're still friends to this day, me and this gentleman, we're still good friends. But anyway, after we ended that partnership, didn't close on this apartment, I'm like, I got to stay in touch with this property manager. They were just great. So I called them, and I was talking to the main lady there, and she's like, well, I heard your partnership ended. What are you going to do now? And I'm like, great question. And she was actually the one that encouraged me. She's like, why don't you start buying single family properties down here? The cash flow numbers are fantastic, and properties were still so affordable. This would have been early 2018 now.
Okay.
So I had a home equity line of credit at the time, and I would make mostly the on market properties at that time. I really didn't know enough to go off market and pursue, just property owners. I was just kind of going on market, making lots of offers, and I would use the home equity line of credit, leveraging the property manager, that I had networked with, her contacts. She knew so many contractors and handymen and plumbers and HVAC and everything. So she's like, Ben, you find the property and I'll help you do whatever it is you got to do. I have the contacts. She was a great woman. She really wanted to see me succeed. So the first couple of properties we bought were just small. They were like perfect properties, like 60s, 70s construction.
Okay.
3 bed, 1 bath, pretty light rehab. They weren't like full guts.
Right.
And I went through a lot of brain damage at the time trying to find a lender that didn't want my money to season, and so I
What do
could
you
refinance all that money back out. So
what do you mean? What do you mean season for the listeners out there who don't
yeah,
understand that? What do you mean?
so a lot of lenders, when people are going to want to burr a property, which you're essentially flipping it to yourself, you're going to
Right.
buy it with cash, whether it's your personal
Right.
funds or a line of credit. In my example, you buy it with cash, you improve the property through some renovations. Now you want to go find a bank to cash you out and get all that money
Right.
back. A
Right.
lot of banks won't do that unless you own that property for 6 months. Some of them want
Gotcha.
12 months of ownership so that that money has seasoned, is what they call
Okay.
that. That's
That
their
makes sense.
seasoning requirement. Yeah, and I ran into a lot of those objections. I don't know how many banks I was calling every single day trying to find somebody who would kind of waive that seasoning requirement, and finally found just a small good old boy bank in central
Those
Indiana, and
usually
they,
help you. Those are
oh
usually good ones
gosh,
to work with.
yeah, they were a blessing, and they ended up uh, refinancing me out of the first several properties we bought. And then what really helped us bump that number up to 7 total properties was we ended up buying 4 properties all in one closing, 2 duplexes, 2 single family homes. And this small bank actually helped us to put that deal together. And I think on that one, that was just more conventional type terms. Nothing was
Wow.
really in too distressed
Right.
of a condition where we thought, okay, we need to do some big long-winded rehab. It was
Hmm.
more like, let's take down these 4 properties, carpet paint, and let's get
Right.
them rented. So that's kind of how that happened. Yeah.
So how are you doing all this with your W-2? I know I still have my W-2. I'm a school teacher. My husband is an operator of a chemical plant. Granted, he works shift work, so he's able to do quite a bit throughout the week, depending on days or nights. Me, it's a little bit tougher, but in the evenings, I'm able to do my job. Let me rephrase that. I'm
Mhm.
able to do our business and I teach during the daytime. So how did you do all these out of state, I mean, time zones, contractors? How are you doing
Sure.
this?
Yeah, good question. So the first property we did, it does make you a little nervous, right? It's like, you're digesting all this content and it's
Right.
podcasts and YouTube videos. I know this stuff works, but now it's kind of like the rubber meets the road. We made
Right.
that first purchase. I'm talking to the property manager. It's like, wow, you're putting a lot of trust and faith in other people, because ultimately I'm not there. I'm not right
Right.
down the street. I can't drive by on Monday morning and make sure my contractor's
Right.
there. But I think, to some extent, you leverage some of that risk when you do your best to associate with other people based on the best judgments you can make that are trustworthy and successful people, because if you find really good players in different markets, they have a lot to lose, right? I mean, they've
Yes.
built themselves a great name and a great reputation. So, I'm not saying you just, it's like the blind leading the blind. It's, oh man, I read a great review. They're the best. But there's some truth to that. If they're a rock star, if they're a real player in a market, I mean, the odds are they're probably going to do really good for you, and they're probably going to know other people who do really good. And she was a case in point. She was a wonderful property manager, and she was scaling and growing her company. And the fact that she was a good, reputable manager in that market, she didn't have time for flaky contractors. She
Right.
didn't have time, yeah, for the flaky handymen that wouldn't show up and would waste her time and her investors' time. So, really that really sped me up, because had I just picked that market out, had I just told my wife, Central Indiana, let's look at these counties, properties are cheap. Well, how are you going to
Right.
find a contractor? I guess I'll just Google and start calling. I mean, you could certainly do that. But to know someone who's a real player in the market and so involved and been there forever and knows so many other investors, and I mean, that was super helpful. I mean, it really was. And she was kind of my eyes and ears on the ground at the time too. She would mediate some communications with contractors and check on them, and
So
I
it
would
really
request some of this too. But
So it really is your network is your net worth. If you didn't have this person in Central Indiana, you would not be where you are today.
oh, 100%. 100%. And it's interesting in life because I think, and I was guilty of this, when you're early on as an investor, you want every deal to change your life, if that makes sense.
Oh,
It's like
absolutely. Everything.
yeah, every
Yes.
flip has got to, you just picture this windfall of cash, and
Yep.
these rentals I buy are going to be the best ones ever. And sometimes what you fail to see when you're early on, and I know I can say that about myself, is you don't realize what taking action in all of this activity that's going on sometimes could be setting you up for something you're not even aware of. It might not even be on your radar. And this assisted living was part of that. I didn't know at the time, maybe learning to scale with private money a little bit and have multiple flips going at the same time and proving myself to this lender. I didn't know at the time. I was so focused on these flips having to be so amazing, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You want your activity to
Right.
perform. But I didn't realize at the time, maybe it wasn't so much about this flip and how that was going to change my life. It was kind of all of them collectively and then opening a door to more opportunity. And I've kind of viewed investing as a whole kind of that. It's kind of this journey now, and I'm trying to look at things much different than I did when 5 years ago when this kind of first started. Instead of every deal I do has got to be change my life. It's, man, what am I learning right now? How am I growing? And trying to step back and look a little more big picture.
So it's a mindset shift, correct?
I think so, 100%, absolutely, yeah.
So I
I
am. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I had so many people reach out when I made that post about this assisted living. I just wanted to give back to people in any way I could. And I had so many people reach out, and a few younger investors that I spoke with. I was trying to get them to kind of see that big picture too. And I know it's so hard, but just start taking action. Just be thoughtful. There's so much content out there. Have a plan and just kind of start taking action, because you really don't even know where that path is going to lead you. But you got to just start taking action. I mean, the first flip that I did wasn't great. It made a couple bucks. But because I took action on that first flip, the best flip I ever did came right after that.
It gave you
Because
the
that
confidence to do the one. Yeah.
everything, the confidence, the know-how in that agent, that was an on-market property. And like I said, it did not do very great. That would not be your your showcase study right there on a flip. But
Yeah.
because I did that, that agent that I worked with brought me an off-market I mean, it was awesome. Not that there wasn't blood, sweat, and tears in that deal as well. There always is fires you got to put out. There's always problems you got to solve. But that next opportunity was amazing. And had I not took action on that first one and stuck it out, then I would have never took advantage of it.
So is there anything that you follow to find places to invest in? Do you follow any trends? Are you following where people are moving to? Are you looking for a certain type of geographics, populations? What are you following to pick where your next market is going to be to invest in?
Specifically with the assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about this a little bit. You
Yes.
mentioned it briefly before we started recording, but you've seen the numbers. I think we've all seen the numbers that the baby boomers are coming.
Correct.
So yeah, the number of elderly persons that over the age of 85, that is, you can look up the numbers, but it's
scary.
from
There's
all
a lot.
practical purposes. Yeah, from all practical purposes, it's going to essentially double in the next 10, 15
Yeah.
years. And with assisted living, we're already about 1.5 million beds short in the United States now, and that demand is going to go up. So specifically with assisted living, it's not a if you build it, they will come. That Isabel Guarino says that all the time. She is so correct about that. Once you start
I
doing
was
some
thinking
research,
Field of
because
Dreams. So sorry.
yeah, Field of Dreams. That's the
Yeah.
reference. Assisted living, that it is not. You can't put a beautiful assisted living home way rural and inconvenient to metro areas. Because when we move mom or dad in, or grandpa or grandma
Right.
into a home, it does need to be convenient for family. Yeah. And that is a big factor. With that said, there's probably a little market forgiveness. It's like anything in life. I mean, I think in a metro, it's not like, there's one X that marks the spot in the city and everything else is
Right.
bad. But something that's really easy, and not to be lazy with your underwriting of a market, but if you see big box facilities going up and by big box facilities and assisted living, what we mean are the 3-story buildings. Sometimes they have a parking garage and massive parking lots and
Mhm.
elevators and a very commercial type feel. If you see those going in and being actively built, you know you're in a great market, because those companies are spending millions of dollars a
Mhm.
year just on market analytics, just on research. So if you see those going into a market, you can feel pretty good that you know what, this is going to work for assisted living. And it's a residential assisted living.
Mhm.
It's just that it's residential. So it's a home setting, and your caregiver to resident ratio is so much lower than the big box facility. Like the building that I bought, it's one caregiver for every 6 residents.
That's not bad.
No, and if you go to the big box facilities, most of the time it's 1 to 20,
Whoa.
1 to 25, and at night their night shift is
Yeah.
probably 1 to 40 or 1 to 50.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so really, even though they could be considered competition, it's really not, because you're offering such a higher quality product
You're the
than what that
Chick-fil-A.
big. Absolutely, you're the Chick-fil-A. Yeah, and they're just Burger King trying to sell a chicken sandwich. Now, I will say the big box facilities kind of go all out on grandeur
Hmm.
and waterfalls out front, and all those things are beautiful too, and they do have some value, so I don't want to discount it completely, but it's mostly the grandeur and having a few more amenities. They certainly don't compete when it comes to just the quality of care. So
So, are you part of the next phase of this building? Are you just the building owner, or are you part of the finding the employees, making sure that they have activities to do on Tuesdays? Where are you in this process?
yeah, great question. So I am the owner and the operator.
Okay.
So yeah, own the real estate and then own the business within the real estate that actually holds the contracts for the residents and employs all the employees. I have 5 employees right now, but I have an administrator or manager on site, and really she does all the day-to-day operations. She's kind of the in charge. She's the first phone call for the employees if they got questions. She makes sure we have all the food we need, and checks on medication and just kind of the day-to-day operations. And I'm more of a support role. I talk to my administrator at least once a week now, because it's early. A few times a week. We have an
Yeah.
all employee meeting coming up here in a few days, just to get in front of everyone. And because right now, it's like any business. You get it, and you want to kind of build culture and set expectations,
Right.
and yeah.
So,
So that's kind of the phase that we're in.
what are your expectations for this building and the people who live in it? Because yes, this is a business and you're in it to make money, but you are also helping people and changing lives. So, what are your expectations?
Yeah, 100%. So my expectations are that we provide the best quality care for these residents that we can. Period. We do it in everything we do. Every activity we do is like an act of service. So, for example, in just one of the many ways, we are putting thousands of dollars right now into cutting down trees and putting in landscaping. Well,
Okay.
why? I mean, that's not a high return on investment activity, and it costs a lot of money and it's a lot of work. But I want my residents to look out the window and be proud of where they live and see, beautiful, greenscapes and flowers. That's what I want, because I want to provide the best product we can. So when I meet with the employees here in a few days, we're going to talk to just about some conduct things and professionality. But why do we do that? Because we want every encounter, and it's hard with I give the employees credit because it can be a little bit more mundane of a work environment. But we remind ourselves, with these beautiful seniors, these residents that we care for. I mean, you are really making an impact on their life. They're building close relationships with these employees toward the end, and some of them get more visitors than others. That's
Hmm.
definitely fair to say when it comes to the residents. So we just want treat every day like an opportunity, really, because I think when you view it that way, it makes it more enjoyable for everyone. I'm one of those people, so I like to think of myself as a motivator and an encourager, but I think that it can be contagious to have that type of mindset that, man, I am making a difference. And you know what? I am proud to work here. And I just really try to, I want to set a good example for the employees and let that just filter out. So it doesn't matter if, a daughter comes in to visit, their mom, or a granddaughter to visit their grandma at our facility. We just want it to be a good experience and provide a great product and just make a difference. That's our goal.
So I love everything what you just said. My husband's grandparents were in a home. My husband's grandfather unfortunately passed away this December and has left an
Mhm.
absolute hole in my heart. But his grandmother is still there, and we try to visit her. It's a little bit harder now that everybody's in school. My daughter has started kindergarten, but in the summer I was
Sure.
going 2 and 3 times a week, and now we're going about once a week, which is really, I hate to say it, it's terrible. I feel like I should go every single day. I feel terrible, but she
Yeah.
loves it. She has friends there and activities, and they
Mhm.
get to do all these field trips and they do all these fun things, and she enjoys being there. Now, do I think she visits her house? Of course. But this is where she is at this stage in her life. So you being able to do
Mhm.
this and to provide comfort and security and friendship
Mhm.
and camaraderie and all of the words that are wonderful to hear, especially with the aging population who are
Sure.
left alone a lot of the time. I think that's
Mhm.
extremely it's admirable, and I like the business aspect too because we're all here to make money. But you are
Right.
able to make that impact, which is once you've made all the money, money is just becoming money at a certain point. So you being able to
Sure.
do this for joy is a really, really great thing. Um, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with what you're doing. What is your
Thank
next
you.
step with that? Do you want to open more of these? Would you like to build ones? Do you want to keep purchasing them? What is your plan?
Great question. So plans do change and evolve with time. I think
Always
we all,
time. Yes,
right.
all the time.
Yeah, we all know that. We'll see what the good Lord has in store. But right now, I would like to acquire another assisted living facility, kind of in the same geographical area.
Okay.
Because when you have a smaller residential assisted living facility, like for my administrator, uh, operating one care home of that size really isn't super demanding, believe it or not, in terms of her administrator role.
Right.
When you get a few of them in the same geographic area, this is something I'm learning from other owners. You can really kind of share staff a little bit and kind of scale some of the systems you have. So a good administrator could probably run 2 to 3 homes that are this size. I mean,
Right.
because again, we're not talking 20, 30, 40, 50 residents. We're talking six in
Okay.
one small home. It's pretty manageable. And, like my administrator, for example, she's been doing it for over 10 years. She's very experienced. She's just really good at what she does. So we'll see what the good Lord has planned for me in terms of your question, but I would like to buy another in the same geographic area. So the search is on a little bit.
Well, I hope Jesus loves you because you can totally do this. I think it's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
This is great. So I appreciate you spending your time with me and telling us what you're doing. It is, again, something I've said before. I would love to get in on something like this. I absolutely respect the elders that we have in our country. Well, anywhere really,
For
but
sure.
um, I think that they've done their job. They've given to society, and now it's our turn to help them. So, are you ready for the
Very well
final?
said.
Are you ready for the final 3 questions? I ask
Yeah.
every single person on my podcast. All right. So the
Okay.
first
Yeah.
one: what is something on your bucket list that you would like to achieve within the next year?
I gotta
Mhm.
say the obvious one, if for anyone that's listened to this thing, that's to leave the W-2 job.
Oh gosh,
Um,
I
yeah,
can't
I
wait.
really just want to. Yeah, I don't want to limit myself, and I'm really just kind of ready to break free in a sense and really see what I'm capable of and really see what I can do and challenge myself to grow more, not only as a business owner, but just a person and a husband and a friend and just kind of everything. So I'm ready to let's
Beautifully,
go.
beautifully
I'm ready to
stated. I
go.
think that's great. I can't wait to leave my
Yeah.
W-2. I enjoy my job, but I don't. I'm a teacher. I've said it before. I love to teach, but I don't really love what I'm doing currently. So I can't wait to leave the W-2 and, like you said, see what I can do because I think Hannah Birthday has a ton in her, but it's not really coming out and teach. So, anyways, second question. You ready?
Yep.
What is a skill that you've always wanted to learn?
Learning a second language.
Okay. Do you have a
And
language you'd like to learn?
I think it would be Spanish.
Okay.
I think it'd be Spanish. Um, I took a little bit of it in high school, like remember nothing, like shamefully. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Now I have two daughters in high school now, and they're taking Spanish, so that's interesting. They already know more than I did ever. But yeah, I would say learning a second language, and again, it's just about growing, and
Yeah.
kind of challenging yourself more. As I take this journey in life, I'm kind of gravitated toward that a little bit. So,
Third question. If you, based off what you know now, keep that in mind.
yeah,
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would have really challenged myself more then to take action on all these things that you were so attracted to. What were you saying in this barbershop chair at 16 years old? And then I don't know what it was, if I just got comfortable or just was being a knucklehead. I never really did it. Challenge myself to step away from your friend group maybe and
Mm.
get new acquaintances. Put yourself around other people who are doing this thing that clearly you're attracted and drawn to. And yeah, that's a long-winded way to say what I would say. It'd be a
I
little
think
bit of
that
everything.
the majority of us would probably tell ourselves the same thing. If we all could go back
Yeah.
in time, my God, I'd be a billionaire right now, based off what I know. But here we
Right. I
are.
know. Yeah,
Here
and
we
it's
are.
funny. I actually try not to rear view life a whole lot because it's very tempting to do, but I feel it can be a little bit defeating sometimes. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Yeah, it could
But
be. It's
yeah.
very
So
angering whenever we're sitting down to try to figure out, say we're trying to plan a vacation or something. I'm like, okay, well, I have to take off work here. You have to do this. And it's like, if we would have done what we're doing right now, 10 years ago, we wouldn't be working W-2s. Could be, I don't know, sipping a Mai Tai on the beach because my business is running. Like, but again, you
right,
tunnel vision, you got to focus on what's ahead.
right. Amen. Yeah, well said.
If people want to reach out to you, private money lenders, anyone who's interested in what you do, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way is just find me on Facebook and send me a message on Messenger. Just Ben Striegle.
Thank you so much for your time. It has been wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye, guys.